A pimp, not a simp. A pimp, not a simp. A pimp, not a simp. We eat so many shrimp. I got iodine partners.
My bitch a choosy lover, never fuck without a rubber. Never in the sheets like it on top of the cover. Money on the dresser, drive a compressor. Top notch hoes, get the most, not the lesser. Trash like the fuck with $40 in the club. Fucking up the game, bitch, it gets no love. She be cross country, giving all that she got. 1,000 a pop, I'm pulling business off the line. I smashed up the gray one, bought me a red. Every time we hit the parking lot, we turn head. Some hoes wanna choose, but them bitches too scary. Your bitch chose me, you ain't a pimp, you a fairy.
A pimp, not a simp. A pimp, not a simp. A pimp, not a simp. We eat so many shrimp. I got iodine partners.
Hey guys, what's going on? Oh, there we go. How are you? How's everybody doing? Welcome to the show tonight. So we have something that's going to be interesting. I'm not going to waste time with the intro because it's a bit of a long one. Robbie Anderson, who I just seen in the chat, what's up, man? Sent me this video. I think I've seen it before. It's been a very, very long time, so I can't remember. I can't remember totally, but I recognize who the individual is who's on my thumbnail. So I think I have seen this video before. The problem is that this video gets me pissed off. More so than other, like, right to travel videos. Largely because of how easy it is to catch your honor bullshit, but how confidently this individual presents herself and presents herself as being this. I actually forgot about the heart rate monitor. Really? You really want me to? Son of a bitch. All right, fine. Where is it? Where'd I leave it? I can't find it, so, and I want to get this thing started. If I can't find it here in the next 20 seconds, I'm gonna say screw it, and continue on. Damn it! What? Found it. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. I want to get the show on the road. Anyway, now look, again, like I said, this one pisses me off more than anything else, because she's lying, and it's like a lie by omission, because it's very, very easy to debunk her. It's like painfully easy. But yeah, here we go. Let's get this started. Don't want to keep you waiting. It's just the confidence, man. Ugh. Hey, Deacon.
The woman you are about to see has done more to protect your rights than probably anyone you will ever see or meet.
You see what I'm saying? Right off the bat with that level of fucking confidence and unearned confidence.
She is going to explain how she has found ways and reason to never obtain a driver's license and never register an automobile with any government agency, and how to cancel those things after they have been done, for the obvious purpose of exercising our right to travel without interference by the state. You may disagree with her positions. You may consider her to be radical in her activism, but you will not be able to challenge her facts and legal references, and you will not be able to prove her wrong.
Challenge accepted.
The vehicle regulations she discusses in this video are only one small part of the work she has done to defend and restore individual rights. Her energy, her intellect, and her devotion to justice are unmatched in my experience. When anyone works to defend...
By the way, if I have enough time at the end of the day, I'll be able to show you guys just how awesome she is.
...defend their rights, they are defending all our rights. When anyone fails to defend their rights, they put all of our rights in jeopardy. In many cases, that puts our property and even our lives in jeopardy. In the following interview, we are all privileged to hear how Jackie Fig has battled for herself and for all of us.
Privileged. We're privileged to bear witness to this testimony.
In her lifelong campaign for freedom, rights, and justice.
Okay, so my name is Jackie Fig, and I've been traveling without a license since around 2003. A driver's license. A driver's license, yeah, let's emphasize a driver's license. I first read the vehicle code back in 2003 and realized that it really didn't apply to me, that it didn't include my property. And as such, I then sent out a series of letters to about 6 people, the Department of Motor Vehicles, the Commissioner of the Highway Patrol, the Attorney General, and a few other people, the Department of Transportation, out a series of letters and
hang on.
realized that it really didn't apply to me, that it didn't include my property. And as such, I then sent out a series of letters to about 6 people, the Department of Motor Vehicles, the Commissioner of the Highway Patrol, the Attorney General, and a few other people, the Department of Transportation, the Governor of the state. And I very, quick.
No, she's from England, but she's been in the United States since at least 1995 or 96. But I've already located a lawsuit that she filed on her foreclosure, supposed foreclosure on her house, and it's rife full of your typical sovereign citizen markers. So, yeah, that's what we're dealing with.
Started to discover that I was right. I was correct. I did get a letter back from the Attorney General.
She never displays this letter from the Attorney General apparently agreeing with her on the right to travel.
And
you were correct in what?
In my assumption that I did not, it did not apply to me.
Bullshit.
You did not need a driver's
I did not need a driver's license, and that I did not need registration for the cars or automobiles that I was using. So having gathered that, I then set about to cancel those documents. And I did that back around 2004 after a series of letters went back and forth.
Cancel which documents?
Driver's license and, driver's license and registration.
Cancel them by mail? You're giving written notice?
I gave written notice. It was actually a complete series. I would say I contracted out of the system.
Oh, yeah?
I did get those things notarized. I had everything sent by a notary ultimately. And the conclusion that the group of us came...
Remember, guys, she got it notarized. That makes it extra legit.
When I say the group of us, I mean the 6 individuals I wrote to who worked for the state and myself, came to the conclusion that it was not for me. And
having the licenses.
Having the license, yeah. I issued my own documents. I issued my own identity document. I issued my own certificate of absolute title.
She wrote her own certificate of title. And she thinks that that's going to be recognized by anybody?
Or absolute ownership, not title.
Oh, I'm sorry. Absolute ownership, not title.
Issued my own bond for insurance purposes, or financial responsibility is really what it's called.
So she wrote up her own supposed bond so she doesn't have to get actual insurance for her car.
Now that sounds like a lot of work.
That sounds like a fucking scam.
It was.
Study, okay.
It was a lot of work.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of work doing absolutely nothing.
And this enables you to utilize the public highways without the licenses, is the idea.
Absolutely, and I was perfectly safe for a couple of years. I traveled around the place. Had I didn't actually get stopped or anything. Nobody stopped me. I had my own plate made up.
The fact that you didn't get stopped for 4 years does not mean that your shit works. It just means that you haven't been caught yet.
And everybody had been noticed and it wasn't an issue. A couple of years into this, I did have an issue with an officer, and ultimately he arrested me, impounded my car, and at the time he discovered that my car was not in the system, that I was not in the system, and he could not understand it. He could not find any evidence of me existing. So I know that my process had an effect. It had actually wiped out any recognition of me within the system. And I had received a couple of small tickets
Alpha.
Previously.
Oh,
She
so
should not have arrested you then.
No.
So how did that resolve?
so she already got so did you catch that? She said she got cited.
Evidence of me existing. So I know that my process had an effect. It had actually wiped out any recognition of me within the system. And I had received a couple of small tickets previously.
But he should not have arrested you then.
No.
So how did that resolve?
Well, it wasn't actually too good. What happened was about 8-9 hours after I was arrested, they managed to locate old tickets, and which included the automobile I was driving, and technically they put me back into the system. Ultimately, this resulted in my having a bail of about $920,000
I'm calling bullshit on that, all right?
for driving without a license.
Bullshit. Bullshit. Bullshit.
$1 million baby.
How did it get that high?
Because that's kind of another interesting story. Well, they couldn't hold me. Every time I was arrested, I would sign as the authorized representative and I would be released.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
So I was constantly cite and released, and I would never go into court.
Has anybody ever watched somebody who tries to say authorized representative on a citation and they get
Because
released?
there was no consent, and we'll get into that in a second. The element of consent is the major element. Anyway, this went on for a number of years, and slowly the bail kept going up and up and up, because every time they got me, I would, have this way out.
So eventually the highest amount of bail
Was $920,000. Yes,
it
worked up to that. Okay. Yes, and I can tell you, the officers were very excited whenever they found me. You would have thought I murdered a few people.
And again, she doesn't provide any documentation, any record of her supposedly having a $920,000 bail on driving without a license.
So, what I really would like to explain today is the major elements that have enabled me to come to these conclusions. I started off with these conclusions, and I've pretty much proven that the conclusions are correct.
Oh, I bet you have.
Okay, now before we go on,
Sure.
are you still under $900,000 threat? In other words, if people hear this and you owe $1 million and you are a fugitive from justice, then they will not want to follow your...
No, not at all. No, ultimately I ended up with a $100 fine, and that's everything's been dealt with. Yes, I'm not a fugitive. Yeah.
Oh, so she did have to pay a fine. Right. I guess people don't catch these things. She still had to pay a fine out of this $920,000 bail. So is that working?
Yes.
I thought you're supposed to only do this, and you're not supposed to be cited for anything if it works, right?
I did make a mistake, but that's a whole nother issue. We have tested out these theories with other people as well. But anyway, so let me explain the main elements of what I discovered. The California Vehicle Code only applies, it's a private code. Let me emphasize that. It's a private code. And it only applies to certain persons.
Oh my God. And here is where I really get agitated. Okay. It's the California code is I guess is printed by Deering's. I guess it's the publisher. And I guess they have a contract to publish the official code of California. That doesn't make it private.
It only applies to certain property within a certain location.
We think it applies to all of us, everything, everywhere.
It does.
We're wrong.
It's a belief system. It's definitely a belief system. And I would say, you know, many police may have that same belief system too.
Probably all.
Probably all of them.
They're enforcing.
They're
Yeah.
specifically hired, or they're hired for their specific beliefs and attitude. You know, they're not going to hire somebody that's timid or anything. So somebody who's a control freak, you know, who really likes to assert themselves.
Wow. Okay. Fucking castigate all law enforcement like that.
And that's what they do. And they're told that they have this power and authority. For instance, they'll be told, you have power and authority throughout this state. I don't disagree with that statement. However, we need to look at what is this state.
Yeah. What is this state?
So
This state could be something different than what we all think it is.
it is.
No, it's not.
Is the terminology, but yes, and you know, and I've spoken to California state patrol officers, let's call them, or state law enforcement officers, and they will tell you that their power extends everywhere within this state.
And they are flat wrong.
Right.
No, they're right.
Okay.
It does extend to everywhere within this state.
But we have to understand what this state
Or
means.
what within this state means.
How is that defined?
Absolutely. Let's get to that. Let's first look at the person upon which the vehicle code applies. So I'm going to read a section of the vehicle code which tells you.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, okay. And here we go. Here we fucking go. And as it so happens, I conveniently have this ready for you guys. Just move that there so you guys can see it. Let's look at the vehicle. Let's look at the vehicle code, shall we? What? Let's do that. Let's do that. Words and phrases defined.
So this comes from the California Vehicle Code section 21052. The provisions of this code applicable to the drivers of vehicles upon the highways apply to the drivers of all vehicles while engaged in the course of employment.
Okay, she is citing, and this is where I get pissed off, and this is where I get pissed off really bad, because this is where it's your typical sovereign citizen lying by omission, cherry picking to fit their narrative. What she's citing is not the definitions and the applicability of the vehicle code under, words and phrases defined, or administration, or even the driver's licenses requirements, Division 6. She is going into the rules of the road. What part of the rules of the road? Let me see here. Where does she have that stupid shit? Effective traffic laws. There we go. She's citing to this one. Drivers who are public employees authorize emergency vehicles.
By this state any political subdivision thereof, any municipal corporation, or any district, including authorized emergency vehicles subject to those exemptions granted such authorized emergency vehicles in this code.
Hey, Schrodinger.
Most people.
You lying sack of shit. What this section is deals with obedience and effective traffic laws. What this is saying is that state and municipal workers are still subject to the traffic laws of California, except for certain emergency vehicles, such as police, ambulance, and fire. It means that public employee... What she's trying to say, what she's trying to imply by citing this code is saying, like, only public employees are subject to the vehicle code of California. What this statute is actually saying is that public employees are also subject to this code, except for certain emergency vehicles subject to certain exemptions, such as police, ambulance, and fire. So that is a clear example of her being explicitly dishonest to the audience.
Literally do not fall in those categories.
No, technically, the vehicle code is, like I say, a private code, and you have to kind of look at the history of the vehicle code. Originally, it was a place for us to keep information on our collective property. So the car that the sheriff...
What she says here, I have no idea. I haven't gotten dug that deep into the history of California's vehicle code, so I couldn't tell you.
is driving. The car that our other officers use, public officers, absolutely. It was not intended for our private property. Original jurisdiction for that was filed with the Secretary of State, and it was like $2 for the entire time that you would own your car. And we'll call it an automobile, which is really the proper terminology.
Oh my God. I know oftentimes I get demonetized, but every time I hear her, anytime a soft sit says something like that, oh, I'm sorry, I have to call it an automobile and not a motor vehicle, you know? It means shit different.
For it, not a motor vehicle, which is something totally different. So automobile would be every...
Automobile is not defined in California's vehicle code, by the way. It's not. Armored car is, apparently. Authorized emergency vehicle. Auto broker, auto buying. Autoette. What the fuck is an autoette? Automobile dismantler. Automobile driver training. But automobile does not exist in the vehicle code.
I think. And motor vehicle is a very minute portion of that bigger pie.
Bullshit! Bullshit! Again, another lie. And I'll show you right now. Vehicle is probably the most broad terminology in the code. A vehicle is a device propelled by which any person or property may be propelled, moved, drawn upon a highway, excepting a device moved exclusively by human power or used exclusively on stationary rails or tracks. So a vehicle is anything that's not like a bike or anything that's human powered. Motor vehicle, let's go up there because they do have it defined. A motor vehicle is a vehicle that's self-propelled, and then it excludes these specific terms. A propelled wheelchair, motorized tricycle, or motorized quadricycle if operated by a person who, by reason of physical disability, is otherwise unable to move about as a pedestrian. That's it. That is a wide swath of vehicles on the highway. It's basically everything else.
Of those objects.
That property. Yeah. So that tells you the person that the vehicle code operates on.
applies too.
So basically she tried to define that employees or people employed by the municipal, she tried to imply that that is the vehicle code's definition of person. Right? Except person is defined under the California Vehicle Code. It says person includes natural person, firm, partnership, association, limited LLC, or corporation. Includes natural person. If you're not a natural person, you're a fucking
so now you're
cyborg.
wondering, well, how did I get into that? And we'll get to that in a moment on how you get roped in on this. The second thing we need to look at is the actual property, because you have to understand that the vehicle code is divided into two elements. We have the Department of Motor Vehicles, which is the first section of the code, and then we have the Highway Patrol, as we call it nowadays. That's the second part. The original.
What the fuck is she talking about? There are no two sections. There's the vehicle code and there are 18 divisions. It is not split between the DMV and CHIPS.
Original name for the Highway Patrol is the Enforcement Division of the Department of Motor Vehicles.
That is true. I looked it up and that is what the Highway Patrol used to be called. I don't know what the relevance is of that, but she's actually correct in that regard.
Just so you can understand that, that's its original intent. When you actually read the entire code, you'll see in that section what their main
What, the section that says that you're required to have a driver's license?
job is.
You lying sack of shit.
Their main job is to report to Congress. When you actually read the entire code, you'll see in that section what their main job is. Their main job is to report to Congress.
The main job of the California Highway Patrol is to report to Congress.
Let's say we're riding down the highway and there's a bend, a really sharp bend, and everyone keeps going off the bend and there's multiple accidents occurring there. It's their job to find those places, let Congress know so that they can, create a bill to fix that problem.
The job of the Highway Patrol is to locate dilapidated parts of the highways to report to Congress so that they can send California transportation money, infrastructure money. Shit, that is apparently the primary goal of the California Highway Patrol.
The other element of their job, which I always love this part, it kind of describes it to a T, where it says, an officer may use as many flares as he needs to without ever having to pay for them himself. His job is safety. Then that's paraphrased, but that's basically how I remember it. That's, the cute little way that the code is kind of written. So you have this department that is there to...
Oh, by the way, where she says they're split into two sections, DMV and CHIPS. That's in Division 2 administration. There's Chapter 1, DMV, Chapter 2, Highway Patrol. And guess what? The Highway Patrol. Powers and duties of the Highway Patrol. Response. Responsibility and jurisdiction. The commissioner shall enforce all laws regulating the operation of vehicles and the use of the highways except for those that are applicable to private property. What the fuck does it say anything about them reporting to Congress about a shitty road?
keep track of our collective property. And then you have this other element, which is the enforcement of keeping track of all that property.
Oh, she has a website. It's in the description of her video.
And so there was another part of this code that kind of always stayed in my mind. And I'm going to paraphrase it here because it's from one of the earlier parts of the code. But it basically says, if at the time of an accident, the officer is attending the accident because that's within the purview of his agency, basically. He's there for safety purposes. If at the time of an accident he discovers that a person is required to be licensed and is not licensed, if they're required to be registered, the car is required to be registered and it's not registered, then he's to issue a citation in triplicate, and they are to appear at the Department of Motor Vehicles for a hearing.
Wrong. Another lie. Another fucking lie. Because I don't, in fairness, I don't know how old this video is. I don't know. You can find out when this video was uploaded, but I don't know how old this video is in terms of when it was recorded. But it's bullshit that it goes to a hearing because apparently California repealed that. There is no administrative hearing. Any citation that you get goes to the courts.
The one that would have licensed.
Absolutely. The person who's being cited is actually appearing at the Department of Motor Vehicles.
Yes.
Now,
again, administrative adjudication of traffic safety violations repealed. Repealed, okay, this is not from 1986. It was repealed in 1986. They haven't been doing that. They haven't been doing that since 1986. Again, another lie.
and when you look at the construction of the codes, what we're looking at is, you know, the singular includes the plural includes the singular. So when you look at the word commissioner, you have a commissioner of the highway patrol, you have commissioners of the court. You're going before a hearing commissioner. So technically at that time, you're in the Department of Motor Vehicles. You know, when you read the code, it seems pretty clear that that's what's happening. It's an administrative hearing.
Again, repealed.
And you are appearing at the Department of Motor Vehicles. You're appearing within the purview of that jurisdiction.
They call it traffic court.
They call it traffic court.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Then it's part of the judiciary. It's not an administrative hearing.
Absolutely. And they link it to criminal to give it some kind of standing. But
She's wrong. I have had to go to court. I'm a native Southern Californian. I mean, I'm glad. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate the confirmation as somebody who's a resident from California. But it's right there in black and white in the code itself that she claims to have all this fucking secret knowledge of.
it's quasi-civil. But if they told you it was quasi-civil,
Oh, God! Damn it! I thought I turned that off! Thank you, Andrew Selhani, with a $10 super chat. Does she sell whatever drugs she's on because it seems highly effective at killing brain cells? She's an insane person. Flattered others take note. This is how you actually crazy. I thought I turned that off. I legit thought I turned off the jump scare. God damn it.
they trick you into thinking it's criminal. So they'll say criminal and traffic just to get you in there. So anyway, so that's the person. It's really to take care of state employees and operators of state property because they're required to protect the public. So when we look at the purview of the property that is being looked after, as I've mentioned, it is state-owned property. But if we look at the vehicle code, so I'm going to read this section right here, and this comes at 260. So besides the state property...
Thanks, Jeremy. For those curious, tonight is a Double Nickel Belgian Golden Ale. Double Nickel is a local New Jersey brewery. Holy sh! Oh my God, this is 8%. Oh, I'm fucked.
This is the other element that is regulated. California Vehicle Code 260 states in Section A, a commercial vehicle is a motor vehicle of a type that is... But if we look at the vehicle code, so I'm going to read this section right
Again, we're going back to cherry picking.
here, and this comes at 260. So besides...
She cites 260. Which is a commercial vehicle.
property, this is the other element that is regulated. California Vehicle Code 260 states in Section A, a commercial vehicle is a motor vehicle of a type required to be registered under this code, used or maintained for the transportation of persons for hire, compensation or profit, or designed, used, or maintained primarily for the transportation of property. Section B of that code, 260 again, passenger vehicles and house cars that are not used for the transportation of persons for hire, compensation, or profit are not commercial vehicles. So that's...
So this is publicly...
Why didn't you cite regular motor vehicle in the code? I thought you were trying to call your car an automobile because apparently motor vehicle has a specific definition. Why didn't...
Of being held accountable. P. Barnes.
Hey, Baker Street, thank you for this 20-pound super chat. Has she spread this BS to others? Probably. She's a guru, so there's no doubt that in my she's spread this before. Why did she not cite motor vehicle? If the California Vehicle Code only applied to commercial vehicles, why is there a definition for commercial vehicle and motor vehicle? You lying sack of shit.
Owned vehicles or vehicles that are involved
in commerce.
In commerce, making revenue from their usage.
Absolutely, which is in line with the federal statutes under Title 18, Section 36.
It's Section 31, you dumb bitch. Oh my God, I'm getting heated. I'm already heated. And that has nothing to do with the state's ability to regulate the use of the highways.
The whole part.
Shut the fuck up.
In there, in regards to, it defines used for commercial.
Doug, you probably found the same court action that I did today, where she tried to fight a foreclosure on her house.
Purposes and what that really means.
So again, this does not apply to most drivers of automobiles.
Absolutely not. No, neither our property.
And you see how they fucking draw the conclusion there based on a false premise, and the audience is going to eat it up. An audience that may not be well aware is going to eat it up. Again, lying by omission. Sorry.
Us. And I use those, I'm using these terms very loosely or in the ordinary language, not in legal language, because these things have other meanings, of course, when you hit legalese.
Now I'm triggered.
So, if I say you and I really mean you and me, and you can't, you almost run out of words because of legalese. But yes, right. Yes.
Yeah. So most people do not are not.
God damn it!
Let's discuss this jurisdiction.
Thank you, Hank, for the $10 super chat. Cherry picking at its finest, exactly. Sergio Santos, am I practicing attorney? Yes. Do I have a bar card? No.
So you have to understand that we have 29 codes in California. Those 29 codes are actually one statute.
So that's like government code, penal code, this code.
I'm sorry. The reason why I want to turn it off is because I haven't figured out a way so that it only affects me and not you guys, the audience. I still haven't figured that shit out with the audio. I'm sorry. That's why I want to turn it off, because I know it annoys you guys.
Absolutely.
Under one statute.
Under one statute. So the definitions in one particular code apply throughout the codes, throughout all 29 codes, unless it's expressly stated within that code. So for instance, and it makes sense when you do that, because for instance, if you go to the Business and Professions Code, if I'm going to talk about contractors, when I say, if you come and get a contractor's license, then you're the person I'm now referring to in this part of the code. Persons include that person that's licensed under the...
They redefined the word
absolutely, person. Yes. These things have
no, they didn't.
Defined. So, it's not applying to me because I didn't go and apply for that driver's or that license. Right. So it's very important that we have that clear. Now, when we look at the state forum, there's a couple of things you really have to look at. You have to look at the fact that California is a federal corporation under the BAC Act.
And now we're going into real deep soft sit territory.
All all the states are considered federal corporations. State of whatever state is a federal corporation.
The Buck Act.
So one of the things that you need to look at is the taxing forum, which is where all of the codes gain their location. That's where they're all located at. This is where is the taxing forum, which is where all of the codes gain their location.
Well, no, Liz, that's not even necessarily true. I mean, the other than the original 13, the states are created through enabling acts under Congress. The states themselves aren't created by Congress. Congress authorizes their acceptance into the Union. So they're not technically created through acts of Congress. They're allowed to join the Union through acts of Congress.
That's where they're all located at. This is where all the laws actually apply, unless they say otherwise.
And now she's out here trying to say the claim that the tax code in California defines everything unless explicitly stated otherwise. What's up, Schrodinger?
So when you look for forum, we need to look at the Revenue and Taxation Code. It comes up numerous times, but in terms of property, we can look at 130F, and this is what it describes as being the forum. They use a term within the extent.
Okay, she's not going to misapply the usage of the term within the state, but bear in mind, California defines its jurisdiction and jurisdictional territory easily in its government code, which I think is the one you should be looking at and not the fucking tax code, where it says government of the state of California, general sovereignty and people of the state. Sovereignty of the state. Territorial jurisdiction. And what does it say about territorial jurisdiction? Sovereignty and jurisdiction of the state extends to all places within its boundaries as established by the Constitution. The extent of such jurisdiction over places that have been or may be ceded to, purchased, or condemned by the United States is qualified by the terms of the cession or the laws under which the purchase or condemnation is made.
Area limits of the state of California and includes all territory within these limits owned by.
Thank you for answering my question. She's actually correct. No, she's not, and I'm proving it here and now live to you, Sergio. The term "sov sit," anyone who wishes to extricate themselves from the system understand that you cannot be a sovereign and a citizen. The problem is, dude, you cannot opt out of the system. You can't, no matter how much you want to. Secondly, again, I don't get the meme that people like yourself like to say that we're not sovereign citizens. It's an oxymoron. Well, I guess technically, yeah, you're right. It's an oxymoron, but we're not the ones who coined the term. Your predecessors did. So don't hate us for applying the label.
Or ceded to the United States of America.
No, you can't.
It's not what we think it is. The boundaries of the state that you see on a map, it is those portions of the state that are owned or ceded to the federal government.
Sure.
Liar.
So what we think is a state jurisdiction of traffic control or enforcement is actually a federal jurisdiction.
Well, okay, technically, yeah. You know what? If you don't want to abide by the laws and rules of the state of California and the United States, get the fuck out.
So we're all misled on that.
Yes, there is, it's not so much misled. Okay, so if you imagine at the construction
Liar!
of the Constitution, there's two elements in there. There's one, the formation of the government.
Okay. Listen to this insanity. Okay, I need to stop here because I want you guys to pay attention to this latest insanity that she's going to talk about with the Constitution of California.
Enforcement is actually a federal jurisdiction. So we're all misled on that.
Yes, there is, you know, it's not so much misled. Okay, so if you imagine at the construction of the Constitution, there's two elements in there. There's one, the formation of the government for the people, but for and by the people. And then there's the formation of the administration of the government. Okay. Two different entities. Yeah. And what
are these entities? Which is which? Please define your terms.
We keep falling into is that portion that was actually created for the administration of the government, the rules for the smooth running of the government. That's what we keep falling into. So we keep becoming state employees, operators of state property, or government employees. The office of person is really an important element for people to kind of understand. Yes. So, you know, there is the government as such, which really doesn't exist, and we won't get into that right now. But
oh, okay. Apparently the government for the people doesn't exist.
Technically, there is a government, and then there is a government for governing the government.
What the fuck? Right. Now you guys understand why watching this video is driving me to drinking?
and that's the issue right there. That's really the one that's come to the forefront, and that's where we keep kind of falling down that rabbit hole. Because we keep falling in as a member of the government and applicable to the rules that govern the running of the government.
It seems some sort of fraud has pulled.
Thanks, Deacon. By the way, I am in the process of getting Miles Morales
us into a place where we don't belong.
We you know, I really stay away from the word fraud
and bullshit, because unlike most sovereign citizens, I read the fucking text of the act. You stupid bitch.
Mostly because I do prefer belief system. It's a belief system. We think that they, you know, we think and we've been trained to look up to this as an authority. It's not true. They've been trained to treat us with authority, and they think that that's so it's a lot of beliefs going on.
A belief system
yes.
could be true.
Yes.
This one is not.
It's not true. Yes,
okay.
It's not true.
So where do we go from here?
Well, let me explain the other part, because this is the important thing is, you know, by now you'll be wondering, well, how did I get into this? How did I, well, it is part of the belief system. You believed that you were required to have a license, so you walked into the Department of Motor Vehicles and you went and applied for a license or registration for your car or your automobile, even though you was not.
That was the Sergio.
Using it in the method that is regulated. It's not you was not participating in a regulated activity, and you was not the regulated person.
I was simply telling Sergio, for clarification purposes, I was telling you that unlike most sovereign citizens, I have actually read the Act of 1871 and can confirm that it has nothing to do with the creation of a federal government that is only applicable to the District of Columbia and federal only territories, and that somehow the states are immune from federal law. That is not what the Act of 1871 is. It never was. And even then, it was repealed in 1874.
But you volunteered into that system.
You were not offering your vehicle for hire.
Yes, but you thought you needed one, so you walked in and got one. And then here's the thing, the guy at the DMV only has one type of license. I mean, they do have motorcycles or whatever.
Bullshit. It has CDLs.
But there's only one system that they have of their own kind of governance. And
oh my God. There's so much wrong. Hold on. Let's go for it, shall we? Commercial Motor Vehicle Safety Program. Issuance of licenses.
You filled out an application. As it was, the way that you filled it out showed that you were qualified to do that. You took a test. So there's a lot of intent going on.
And there it is. Article 5, Chapter 5. Oh, sorry. Where'd I miss it? commercial driver's license. Oh, I'm sorry. If driver's licenses only apply to commercial drivers, why is it a commercial driver's license explicitly stated and separate from regular driver's licenses?
On here.
So you represented yourself
as being
within their jurisdiction.
Absolutely, yes.
But you did that. They didn't do it.
They didn't do it to you.
You went in by applying for the license
Hello, Archangel.
yourself.
Yeah, and we can go into that just in a little bit of how we keep falling into that kind of trap. So first of all, I want to show you where the license comes in and where the property first gets registered. So those can be found in California Vehicle Code 17459 and 17460. 17459 says the acceptance.
And here we go. It has to be service of process.
By a
Oh my God. Again, cherry picking.
resident of this state of a certificate of ownership or a certificate of registration of any motor vehicle or any renewal.
It has to, oh my God, it has to do with the court procedure on getting a ticket. It
Thereof issued under the provisions of this code shall constitute the consent by the person that service of summons may be made upon him within or without this state, whether or not.
It just means by getting the ticket. Oh my God. By getting the ticket, that will constitute a service of process. If you get, and therefore you don't have to, they don't have to mail you the service or service you by a service processor.
He is then a resident of this state in any action brought in the courts of this state upon a cause of action
Oh my God.
arising in this state out of the ownership or operation of a motor vehicle. So it's a very interesting construction of language right there. We begin as a resident of this state.
And this is the state you defined a minute ago,
Yes.
which is not really a real state. It's sort of a ceded
Oh, now California is not a real fucking state.
to the federal government.
Yes. You know,
Yeah, no shit! The United States won the territory of California from Mexico in the Mexican-American War. Yes, it was territory ceded to the United States.
just to very limited. This is not, you know, really relevant in the sense, but it's important to understand back in the 1860s, actually the land was ceded away from the United States of America. Any of you that have got land packed.
California was sided with the Union.
And looked at those, the land was actually ceded away, and now they're talking about land that's been ceded to. So the chances are you're not on land that was ceded to the United States, and you can probably show that you're actually on land that was ceded from the United States. Right. Or
California sided with the Union. What the fuck?
you know, sold by them. So the other section, CBC 17460, is very similar in nature. The acceptance or retention by a resident of this state of a driver's license issued pursuant to the provisions of this code shall constitute the consent of the person that service of summons may be made on him within or without this state, whether or not.
It was a... Jeremy, I don't want to hear your actual history teacher bullshit right now. I am on fire.
He is then a resident of this state in any action brought in the courts of this state upon a cause of action arising in this state out of his operation of a motor vehicle.
I mean, so did Texas was a republic, you know, for what, a couple of years. All right, leave me alone.
Anywhere within this state.
So only by applying for the license
Yes.
are you becoming
Consenting.
subject to that.
Yes. So acceptance implies there's a choice. Consent implies you've now consented to be the agent for the service of process. So you will be brought into the courts.
And why does the state need my consent to enforce upon me?
They don't. They don't. They don't. That's the point. The fact that you are within the territorial boundaries of the state of California means you are subject to its laws. That is what the sovereignty of California means. So they don't need your consent to enforce the vehicle code upon you.
It is a civil action. They are required to have your consent in the first place. You have to agree to go into the courts. And even that, you know, none of these things are in concrete, shall we say. You can still escape. You know, but it just makes it more harder. If you have a driver's license, you've already consented that service of summons. Now you need to go into court. You know, it will go.
It's a matter of oh my god.
For warrant.
It's just a matter of procedure.
Other fail-safes that they have to really drag you along into the system. If you don't have these two contracts to begin with,
The license and the registration.
They're not contracts. For fuck's sake, sovereign citizens, not everything you do or transact with the fucking state is a contract. Not everything is a fucking contract. Holy shit.
license and the registration, there's really not very much that they can do. They can issue a fine. That's if they even issue a ticket. Generally, without the consent, there's nowhere that they can go.
They can't issue a warrant.
They can't issue a warrant.
Yes, they can.
So
They absolutely can if you fail to appear or you don't pay the fine.
we've looked at this. We've looked at two particular
You'll get a warrant.
elements. Like, for instance, for most of us that are now old discovering this, and you decide that you're ready to get rid of these contracts, we have other things to overcome. There's a lot of presumptions and assumptions out there. So if you're caught...
Oh my god, I notice a lot of freemen on the land and, you know, English Sovs, they really love to use presumptions and assumptions.
traveling around in your car without a driver's license, it will be the assumption
She worked with another guru on this shit. Interesting.
that you forgot to renew it. So that's one element you need to overcome. If you are young enough and you've never had a license right now, this is really important for you guys, because if you've never
Oh, well, let me just adjust my seat and pay attention.
had one, and let's say you actually get stopped, what will happen is they will issue a ticket, and you will get this weird number in the place of where it says driver's license. Now you know you don't have one. But what happens is the DMV has a little office that is a presumptive office. It's sitting there waiting for you to get a license. And so they issue it's called the Issuance Department. They're issuing you with a number.
The Issuance Department? What? Where? Where is this Issuance Department? Where is this Issuance Department? I'm at the DMV. Organization. I guess it's in the regs.
But just in case.
But it's not in the vehicle code, that's for sure. It's in the regs.
Go get a license.
If it exists at all.
Because you just gave them your name.
Oh my fucking god.
At the traffic stop, you give them your name. The officer will issue a ticket. The ticket will have a bogus number on it, or a number that you don't recognize. It's not really bogus to them. We have done some research on this, and it comes from the DMV's Issuance Department, and they're sitting there waiting for the application. Now, so far, it's not a problem. There probably won't be a...
Well, you know what? I imagine that there probably is a division or a specific office that handles people who are applying for a fucking driver's license. You're right. Because you know what? A lot of people probably turn 16 and 17 every day, and the first thing they want to do is to go file for their driver's license. So maybe they are sitting there and waiting, or maybe they're processing it.
Court case. We have not seen court cases happen at this time. So you'll have a date to appear, but when you actually look, you'll find out you've never consented. The best thing you can do with that right there is to send it back and say, I don't consent.
Well, there is no issuance in anywhere in the California codes at all. Issuance. What's the other term that she said?
That's one way of handling it. If what we found is later on, if you go get a license, if you apply for a license, any tickets that were created with the issuance of that, it's not even temporary, but it's pending license.
The number they made up.
The number they've made up. If
My understanding, and I got to confirm with this for my friend, because I've wondered about it, but I never asked, is at least in New Jersey, my driver's license number does incorporate aspects of like my ID. Like it's partially random, but partially, P. Rhymes, you probably know the answer better than I do. My understanding is that the driver's license includes like our birthday in there at some point, our birth year, and other factors that go into our license. It's not entirely random.
they can
But also at the same time, yes, it's to differentiate you between people of the same fucking name.
you at that address of that age and all those things to now your application
You're now culpable to all
those past
prior.
yes. So it's very ingenious, the little system they have set up. And this is definitely, it applies only to California. Other states don't have these same things. If you don't register your car, it's assumed that you no longer want registration.
No, it's not assumed that you don't want registration. It's that you're driving your without registration and you're getting a ticket for it because you haven't registered your car.
In California, of course, it's assumed that you forgot to renew it.
No, it's not assumed that you forgot to renew it. It's a simple fact that you haven't registered your car when you're supposed to under the law.
How you're incompetent and something.
You're you're a jackass. Register your fucking car.
And then you forgot. So there's all kinds of past dues, fees, and whatever not that they'll try and wrap on you. But yeah, in other states that doesn't apply. I think it's a nice.
Or as Gary said, don't renew it. Keep it unregistered. You just can't drive it on the road anymore or risk getting a ticket.
A point for me to mention right now. California has a renewal every 4 years of a driver's license. They're at risk of losing jurisdiction every 4 years, except under these presumptions of law that they create that is only for California. Other states don't do this. In England, which is where I'm from, the license is issued for life. It's good to your 75th birthday.
Okay, somebody, if there's somebody who is from England in the chat, can you actually confirm that for us? I honestly have no idea whether or not that's true.
Because England did not want to risk losing jurisdiction. Rather than be in commerce, because that's the other thing, California has chosen that it wants the revenue generated every...
Oh, P. Rhyme says it is random? Okay, never mind. I thought it had some aspects of my birth year or something like that.
4 years, which is quite substantial. And risk losing jurisdiction, England would rather, maintain jurisdiction at the risk of losing a couple of bucks.
And tax you some other way.
So, people are saying no. John Trevi says we have every 10 years. So, apparently, no. You do not have a license until your 75th birthday.
Absolutely. TV licenses. Absolutely. But that goes to show you the law is uniform everywhere. The theory, I'm telling you, is absolutely uniform. Another one that you can check up is a case called...
Archangel, no shit, the post office doesn't register its vehicles. They're federal property. They're not subject to state registration. Thank you, Taco Josh. The last two of your birth year are in your ID number. I'm XTSA. Thank you very much, Taco, for the $10 super chat. Archangel, like I said, the post office doesn't have to register the vehicles to the state because they're federal property. There's constitutional aspects to that.
O'Neill. In the O'Neill case, it's called O'Neill versus the Department.
But federal... Just as the states have sovereignty, so does the federal government have sovereignty. And the states cannot impose upon the federal government in that respect.
Of professional and vocational standards. It's from June 5th, 1935, and it was heard in the 2nd Appellate District.
Right, they have, right, Gary's correct. They have state license plates, but they're exempt from having to pay for the plates.
And just real briefly, what that says is, you know, O'Neill was a guy that had a contractor's license at some point. He got pulled up before the board for some violations. They fined him, even though his license was expired and he had not asked to have it renewed. Ultimately, he goes to court. The court rules against him. He goes to the appellate division, and the appellate division rules.
Now, what she's citing here is she's actually citing it correctly in the ultimate reality that this guy who did contract work was sued by the woman who hired him to do contract work. She sued him both in civil court and also filed a complaint with the California's Contractors License Bureau or something like that back in 1935. The guy did not have a contractor's license under that act. And he had one, but it expired and he didn't renew it. The court held that the licensing bureau could not cite him or rule against him. It had no jurisdiction because he did not have a contractor's license and he didn't hold himself out to be a contractor in that regard. So the court said that he didn't have jurisdiction. The problem is, while she's correct in her summary of it, she's incorrect in trying to apply that to driver's licenses. It's also a case from 1935. So she needs a little bit more to make the association that simply not having a license means that you're not subject to the rules of the road and can't be cited for the rules for violating the rules of the road simply by not having a license.
The judgment of the Superior Court is reversed with direction that it adjudge and decree that the order made by the Registrar of Contractors be declared null and void for lack of jurisdiction.
And what about that he was engaging in construction activity without a license?
That doesn't, that becomes a personal contract issue. If I
Now listen to this next BS.
hire you to do a job for me and you don't do it, then I can take you into court. But if you're unlicensed, that's my only remedy. If you're licensed, I then have to go through the board, and what happens is you have an administrative hearing. They find you guilty of something, they fine you, you pay the board, and I get nothing.
Bullshit! Her own case that she cited pointed to the fact that the woman sued him in both civil court and the licensing bureau. More to the point, in modern times, you can sue a licensed contractor for negligence, or for doing a shitty work, or for not abiding by the contract. You don't have to go to the Contractors Licensing Bureau of this state. You can take them to civil court. What the fuck? I have to feel like with 153 people watching here, I have never done it, but you had to have had to deal with a contractor who did a shitty job, and you may have had to have taken them to small claims court. You are not forced to go to the state's administrative agency first or only. And she actually thinks that if you do that, you don't get nothing from the contract breach? or the negligence? What the fuck is she on about?
Yeah, so if he's not licensed, the only issue is he has to tell you he's not licensed or not tell you
Absolutely.
that he is licensed.
Yes.
Otherwise, there's no complaint on the part of the government.
Yes.
Because you're just
You're not-
engaging in rightful activity.
Absolutely. Yes, exactly. You're using your labor in exchange for something, just and fair.
Value.
A value, yes.
Okay, so how do we get out of our ticket? In other words, we've talked about not having a license.
Sure.
And as actually having an advantage legally by not having a license.
Yes.
This is a very difficult, concept for many
Yes.
people. So wherever we are in the explanation, let's move forward so people can really get a grasp of how this may come around to their lives.
Yeah, okay, so, I've gone through quite a few traffic stops and a lot of issues.
Yeah, I bet you have.
And with court, this is by far the easiest way of dealing with it, is by not having those contracts to begin with. Once you step into their arena, you're pretty much fodder for their, there are ways out, but you're going to have to, use legal arguments to maneuver your way out. My favorite one is.
So her whole shtick is the best way to win is to not play. That's her shtick.
It's always the verified complaint, and I know a lot of people have problems with the verified complaint.
Requiring the court show a verified complaint in order to enforce against you.
Absolutely. I think one of the important things people have to understand with the court can appear to move forward with its processes. They can send you to the public defender's office. They can, hurl you through the court and keep going and keep going and keep going and bring you back there. And what you have to do is you have to stand on your rights. Because what happens is they can appear to proceed, but they cannot effect judgment.
This they can. If you decide not to show up to court after getting a summons or getting a citation, they can have a bench warrant, and the next time you're stopped, they're gonna haul your ass to jail.
And
so you think they're actually about to put you in jail, or about to fine you a huge amount,
Yeah.
or about to do this? They're threatening it. They've got everything
it's called
against you.
going through the motions.
Yeah, but actually, unless they have the verified complaint, and unless you are demanding to see it,
Yes.
then
If you haven't waived your right.
they can't quite finish off. Is that the idea?
Oh, they could just send all the fucking paperwork and all the threats and blah, 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 but, it means nothing. You could just go about your fucking business, right? And they can't do it shit to you.
Yes, and you have to know the local rules of where you are. So it's very hard for me to tell you this is what you need to do, but you need to know the local rules. Some of the local rules, for instance, San Bernardino has it that you had to stipulate for a commissioner or a hearing officer to hear the case. In Riverside, for instance, it's assumed you agree to that unless you object. So you really need to know those rules.
And let's explain the verified complaint. This
Sure.
is a sworn statement
Yes.
by someone who says
They're injured.
that you've injured them.
Yes.
Oh, now we're going to fucking Mark Stevens.
And that's something you never have, or
Yes.
very rarely have, in a traffic case of any kind.
Yeah.
They don't need one.
You need to have a controversy as such, or a controversy, if you guys would like to hear it that way. I learned a few things along the way, and one of those is a controversy. So here's a little scenario.
Yeah, Heather, she still had to pay $100 fine, right? So apparently those threats worked because apparently she had to pay a fine out of her $920,000 bail.
Scenario for you. Somebody calls the police.
Okay, now listen to this mess. Listen to this mess, and this will get you into their fucking mentality and how insane it is.
Yeah, I learned a few things along the way, and one of those is a controversy. So here's a little scenario for you. Somebody calls the police on you. Domestic dispute is a very common thing. Someone calls the police, and the police come out. And they say to you, hey, what's going on? And immediately you start running your mouth. This person's done this. This person's done that. Great. They now have an argument ensuing. If you turn around and say, well, do you have a complaint? It will stop them in their tracks. So you can see that without a complaint,
So if the cops come in on a DV call and they ask what's going on, all you have to do is say, do you have a complaint? And the cops will be like, no, oh shit, no we don't. Sorry sir, have a nice day.
that needs to be verified by the other party, the police cannot proceed.
And the police officer may think that by witnessing you rolling through the stop sign,
Or beating the shit out of your girlfriend or wife,
that he has a complaint.
He has a complaint.
yeah! Yeah, he does! That's the whole point of a citation. It's because the cop is saying, I witnessed you violating California's traffic laws.
He doesn't.
All right.
Um,
I'll go back 30 seconds here.
Yeah, you know, I learned a few things along the way, and one of those is a controversy. So here's a little scenario for you. Somebody calls the police on you. You know, domestic dispute is a very common thing. Someone calls the police and the police come out and they say to you, hey, what's going on? And immediately you start running your mouth. This person's done this. This person's done that. Great. They now have an argument ensuing. If you turn around and say, well, do you have a complaint?
No, sir, we had a call about a domestic issue. We're trying to know what's going on.
It will stop them in their tracks. So you
No, it won't.
can see that without a complaint,
It's like, the cops are going to be understandable. Have a nice day.
that needs to be verified by the other party, the police cannot proceed.
And the police officer may think that by witnessing you rolling through the stop sign, that he has a complaint.
He has a complaint. He
But
doesn't.
he doesn't because
No.
he's not
But and again,
injured.
He's not injured. And not only that, he can't be the witness, the police officer, and all the parties to it. I mean,
yes, he can. In some jurisdictions, yes, he can. A cop can be a witness. A cop can be a witness.
and you hear that a lot. He can't.
And in certain jurisdictions, a cop can also be the prosecuting party. I know it used to be in New Hampshire. I don't think they do it anymore. But in some states, a prosecuting attorney doesn't even need to show up. The cop can do it all.
Be everything. You know, some people will ask the commissioner, for instance, you know, what's the nature and cause of the action? That's a really good question to kind of get that down. And but you know, I think we should kind of discuss that maybe in a different.
Another time.
Yeah, because it's pretty long. It's really important to understand the nature and cause of an action. Yeah, and you need to go into that pretty
Okay.
clearly.
Okay, so now most people do have a license at this stage in
Yes.
history, and so there's a process of noticing that you are giving the license back, you are giving it up.
Pope, thank you for elaborating more on the absurdity of this woman's fucking logic.
Absolutely.
Abdicating. And is that where we're going now with this?
Yeah, let's go there. So if you are ready to get rid of your license and to remove your cars from registration, there is a process. There is a DMV form called DL-142.
I have not even bothered to search whether or not that's an actual form. I have seen in the comment section of this video where people are like, help me, I'm trying to find this DL-142 form. I don't know where the fuck it is. Somebody help me.
And you can fill that out. And it does ask for a reason why you're giving it up.
But again, as Gary alluded to, you can give up your registration. You can give up your license. Doesn't mean that you can't be stopped and can't be cited for not having a license.
And if, you know, it has to be very personal to you. If you've done your research, you can put fraud if you want. You know, I was under the impression I needed one, and I've read the code, and now I don't. You know, I understand I don't need one. It really is a personal reason as to why you're giving it up. So you would write that in there, and you can just literally send back your license. The important thing, real key here, is to make sure you get something back from them. That form is a two-part form. You could walk in there and get a stamped, filed copy. That's one way. There is also a letter that they give out which kind of thanks you for the consideration of you canceling your driving privilege. That's a really good letter to have, because otherwise what happens is the police pull you over, they come under the presumption that you forgot to renew it, especially if they
Yeah, somebody like this video so I can get the 69 likes.
find you
All right, I did. Nice.
in the system, and they find an old driver's license number there. They're going to assume that you forgot.
Nice.
So it's very important for you to be able to show that, rebut that presumption immediately.
Oh yeah, just hand the cop a fucking email saying that you canceled your license. That'll get you off that ticket, lickety split.
And I've been in stops where that's happened, and it really is. You see the little light go on, and they're like, "Oh." So, and I've been in stops where they don't have that notice, and they really will go on that presumption. Oh no, you just forgot to renew it. Oh no, I canceled it.
So would it be wise to do the return of the license and the paperwork at the counter, where you can get a signature and you can insist on
Yes.
some sort of receipt or paperwork acknowledging that act?
She won't show the letter. She still hasn't showed us the letter from the California Attorney General saying that they agree with her in saying that she as a private individual does not have to have a license. She hasn't shown that shit.
Absolutely, yes.
So it's maybe better not to do it by mail. You just may never get anything
You
back.
might not get anything back. Absolutely, you can do it at the counter.
And you have to be assertive to say, I need a record of this.
I need a record of this. Another thing that you can do for anyone that's already canceled their driver's license and they're experiencing the problem that I'm highlighting right here, which is that during a stop, they're just assuming that you still are driving and you've forgotten to renew your license.
The cops are not there saying that you forgot to have a license. I'm going to make this assumption and presumption, that the cop is like, this person's is driving without a license. Here's a citation. It's not a matter of them, they forgot to renew. It's a matter of you're driving without a license, or you're driving on an expired license. You can rectify it by renewing it. I see that in the California Vehicle Code that there are avenues in which you can get your action dismissed if you renew your license within like 30 days of getting the citation. Sure, why not? But if you don't do that, you're still going to be cited for driving on an expired license.
You can, if you have any proof that you did cancel the driver's license, that you did DL 142, or that you did some sort of mailing, because in my case,
I'm desyncing. Oh, what, from my my mic? Shit. I've noticed that it's been doing that sometimes. Hopefully that fixes it.
actually did a series, a process, so I have proof. Then walk into your nearest DMV office with that proof and show it to them and ask them for a copy of the notice of cancellation. It's very important that you carry that letter with you. Now, in regards to...
No, that could be a photocopy. You just keep many copies.
Oh, yeah.
But it is the record.
Yeah. Just hand the cop your fucking email that you got from DMV, and yeah, you're good to go.
Is the record.
Try it.
It's proof right there, and it really does rebut that presumption for them. Now, in terms of the car being removed from registration, that has had some other difficulties. I did achieve that, like I said before, and
Omega, shut the fuck up, man. I'm still having PTSD from last night.
an officer did put it back. You can just do like I did in that case, which was to send out a series of letters to a number of people requesting that they remove it. I did get it removed, so it's definitely possible to do that. There are other ways to do it too, and that is through a foreign trust is another way. I'm trying to think of any other ways there are.
Sever Soul says, I think the form that she's referencing is used when you leave the state and don't want to renew. That's it. I mean, I imagine there are probably forms that saying like, I either want to junk the car, I don't need it registered anymore, I'm not driving it, or I'm, as you said, I'm leaving the state. Sure, fine, why not? That doesn't, but by doing that, it means you can't drive that car on the public highways.
I know people have come up with some ways, for instance, like
Juan Galt says, courts have held that the license is not the nexus that makes the laws apply. It is the act of driving on the public roads. Exactly. Actus reus.
junk in the car. I really don't recommend the junking in the car, but it is possible to do it that way as well.
When you say a foreign trust, you're trying to make some official paperwork that claims the authority over the vehicle. Is that correct?
Well, what happens is you just literally, in the same way that you would transfer a car from me to you, I would just transfer the car from me to my foreign trust. And what I've done is you include the...
P-Rhymes, it might be YouTube that's screwing me up. I never had an issue with my voice desyncing from my video.
EIN on that transfer so that they can then look it up and...
Archangel, you keep on saying it's called the I'm not driving document. Cops aren't going to give a shit. For all intents and purposes, the act of what you're doing on the public highways constitutes driving. Driving has no qualifier for commercial activity. Period. End of.
Realize that it is foreign.
Now, anyone can create a foreign trust.
Anyone
right?
can create a foreign trust, yes.
Right.
But there is an EIN that you do get from the IRS.
Now we're into foreign trust territory because reasons.
98 number. So anybody that has that 98 number, there are a lot of us out there. You can move the car directly into that vehicle. And what I did is I then wrote an email to the Department of Transportation, and I said to them, hey, you know, I have use of an automobile that is owned by a foreign trust that is recognized by the United States of America. What do I do with my tags? And the response was, return them immediately to the nearest DMV.
Likely because the DMV thinks that it's a diplomatic car. The way you described it, the person at the DMV likely thinks that you're driving a car that's owned by a consulate or a foreign nation. And therefore, yeah, you probably wouldn't be subject to the state's laws on registration. You'd be exempt. That is an actual exemption. But you're lying. You're deceiving the audience, saying that, oh, I just need a foreign trust when you're not a fucking foreign trust.
So
now you're driving without tags now.
Well, and then what I did is I took that email and I keep it in my car. Yes.
Oh yeah, and you just fucking show it to the cops, and they're gonna be like, "Ma'am, where's your license and registration?"
That's without, yes, because if you're actually traveling with a car that is owned by a foreign entity, and you have California plates on it, that's considered a misdemeanor. I've forgotten the section that's at, but it actually comes up as being a misdemeanor.
No license plate.
Well, no, not no license plate. If you have a California plate and the car is not owned in California.
Oh, okay. So you have to remove the plate.
You have to remove the plate, yes. So once I was aware of that, it comes under the foreign organization section. You'll see in there that it's actually listed as a misdemeanor. So you really do need to remove the plate. But for the purposes of being safe, which is what this is all about, the idea is to be able to travel safely. And if you've just got no plate, you're running a risk. So I did send the email and I got the response, and I carry the email in that automobile.
You're talking about being safe from getting pulled over.
Oh, yeah, and having the car, yes.
And
yes.
So
bullshit.
You will get pulled over. What about the
Maybe.
idea?
Maybe.
What about the idea of a license plate that says Foreign Trust 99528?
I actually have my EIN on mine. I created my own plate and I use that one, and I've had it like that for maybe 5 years now. No.
she puts on her fake plates her EIN number. EIN stands for Employer Identification Number. It's a tax ID.
No problem.
Every employer in the U.S. has one that who employs somebody. They have an EIN number for IRS tax purposes.
As long as it doesn't look like a
Why she has one is beyond me.
As long as it's not looking, like a fraud in their system. So yes, you can do that. You can even, I used to use my own plates quite a lot, especially when I'd removed everything from the system with my own emblem on there, my own heraldry.
I thought you guys didn't like the acknowledgement of noble titles, esquires and the like.
Crest, that was cool.
Apparently, my family does have heraldry or a family crest. I'm not gonna. Oh, I almost doxed myself.
So there's
I almost said my last name. I'm like, oh wait.
Things, and people have managed to maneuver this pretty well. So yeah, it is possible to do.
Okay, so what do we not know yet about getting sort of outside this?
No, I know my EIN shows up on my W-2. I'm well aware of that.
And getting pirated by the government bureaucrats and the black and white police cars.
There is one other safety measure that you can do. If you're venturing down this road, there's nothing worse than having your car impounded and ending up with all these court cases. It really is frustrating and
yeah, I bet it is frustrating to listen to this bitch, this woman's advice, and getting your car impounded and getting fees up the wazoo as a result. No offense, wazoo.
Depressing. So
yeah, I bet it is depressing. I followed this woman's advice. I canceled all my contracts. I canceled my license. Why is my car still an impound? Why am I being forced to pay $1,000 to get it out? I thought I was free from this shit. Yeah, I bet it can't be depressing that you follow this woman's advice.
If you can learn from my education, it's great.
Fuck you, lady. You're going to end up getting people spending so much more money in fines, fees, and possibly jail time for following your bullshit.
I'm really happy for you. Yes, absolutely.
Right. That's the idea.
Yes. So there is a final safety. So back in 2004 or so, like I say, I'd read the vehicle code, and I did get an impound. I think it was 2000, might have been 2005 or 2000.
So her car was impounded.
But anyway, somewhere way back when, after I'd done all this, in fact, it's during the same cop was having this problem with me. So I want to make that clear that a series of events occurred about a year and a half, 2 years after I'd done this. So it must have been around 2005, 2006.
So after doing all this bullshit, her car was still impounded.
An officer could have got a vendetta going.
Yes, yeah. I embarrassed him in front of his rookies, and he, he's
will never live that down. Yeah.
Oh my God, I almost did it. An inappropriate gesture.
Yeah, yes. And so the next day was the very first day I was ever impounded as a result of this.
Right.
So, yes. So what happened after that very first time I was impounded? I was already aware under California Vehicle Code Section 4021, a repossessor may, repossess a car without the need of registration and stuff. So I went and repossessed my car with a security agreement. And
you went to the impound?
The impound yard, yes.
Where do you get a security agreement to repossess your car?
Well, I hate to get into the straw man thing.
So she tried to file a lien against the towing company?
So there's a lot more to this. But yes, between myself and myself and Irene, we did have a security agreement. I'd actually had one for quite some time. So it was already created. And the car was already within that security agreement. At this point, I'm going to mention, because this kind of sounds flighty to people. But when you look at many banks have leasing companies. They have leasing companies and they lease their desk, their operations, everything that they use from a leasing company that they happen to own. It's the same thing. So I have a very similar structure that's set up.
Right. So you securitize.
I've securitized,
with
yes.
yourself or an
Oh my fucking god, she's going full straw man in this bullshit.
Absolutely.
that you control.
Yes.
And so you have studied a little law and you understand trust a little bit.
A little bit to do that, and the way that you have liens and all the rest of it. And when you look at the vehicle code, you know, the vehicle code actually mentions the Uniform Commercial Code, which is kind of.
Oh my god. Yeah, I know. If I save this for bingo, we would have had like at least 4 winners at this point. Because now she's dropping the UCC.
Interesting. If you think it's a state law, but it mentions the Uniform Commercial Code, it's over 300 odd times, 350 odd times. And in each of those places, it mentions that the UCC is superior in nature to the vehicle code. So
what?
Just so that you kind of get an idea of that. So
what is in the UCC that we need?
Yes, there are a couple of sections within there. Certainly the idea of liens is within there. Well, there's really only a possessory lien that exists in the vehicle code, but the idea of a security agreement and all those things would be in the Uniform Commercial Code. So so I created a security agreement and I went to go pick up my car and, you know, I said, I'm here to repossess the car, you know. And so the woman says to me, do you have a repossession order? And I hold on, and I'm like, a what? She goes, a repossession order and a hold harmless. And I go, oh, I've forgotten that. Hold on a minute, I'll be right back. So I ran home, looked them up, got one, went back, repossessed my car.
When you say got one, you wrote it up.
Yeah, I wrote it up.
Maybe get a notary on it or something.
Oh, I didn't need a notary. The great thing about this is when you actually read the code, there is no requirements for a secured party to have anything notarized. And you can have copies. You don't need the originals. And yeah, we repossessed my car, so.
And did you
Oh my god, this is insanity.
pay the impound fees?
You have to pay the impound fees. That's a private deal.
Oh, so she had to pay the impound fees.
But you could go after the officer later on. I didn't at that time, but that's what.
Oh, she could go after the officer. What, in his personal capacity?
Where your remedy would lie would be really with the officer. Although many people take the impound yard to court. I'm not sure.
And they lose. And I'll show you guys that in a second.
Any successes? I would be interested to hear of any successes.
Yeah, I bet you haven't seen any successes because they lost.
And I'm of the mindset that I want my car quickly. So
you came up with a way where you were supposed to come in with a court and police approved.
No police approval necessary.
What about police approval? It's about you paying, you showing the court that you have gotten your license, your registration taken care of. But apparently you wrote some bullshit up and the lady at the counter at the towing company took it and accepted it. And you got your car back.
Lease of your vehicle.
Yeah.
And you found another form of security trust that is just as valid to the impound lot.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I found a way that I could repossess my, well, I'm calling it my very loosely there because it's technically the way that it was owned. Actually, I had the certificate of absolute ownership, so it really was mine at that time.
So here's where she's trying to say, like, well, it's mine, but, you know, it's actually owned by my foreign trust. You know, I need to make sure of that so that I don't get held liable. But it really is mine. So you're admitting that the bullshit foreign trust ownership is bullshit because you're treating it still as if it's your own. And I hate to break it to you, but courts aren't stupid. A court is going to see a shell company for what it is. A court is going to see a shell game for what it is. They're not going to buy like, oh, you sold your house, your house's mortgage to this LLC for $1 in consideration, but you're still using it and living in the house as if it's your own. No, we're not going to buy that. It's still your house, your ownership, and it's still going to be subject to foreclosure. Or it's still going to be treated as your property. A court is... again, courts aren't fucking stupid. They're going to look at the evidence. They're going to look at the facts on hand.
Impound Lot was holding your car for the police, actually.
Yes.
And the police were hoping and expecting for some
Registration.
revenue from you, which you denied them by coming up with a legal way to bypass that.
Yes, and you do bypass the police department. Usually what happens is you have to go to the police department and you get a release. In this instance, I was not required to get a...
Hey, thank you, Wazoo, for the $10 super chat. That's what happened. What happened is I turned off the jump scare for the Streamlabs donations. I forgot to turn off the jump scare for the super chats. That's what happened. Thank you, Wazoo, for the $10 donation, man. I appreciate it.
Release. And it's a really nice little system to have set up. I would be...
I would say it is fraud via Ekin if she presented it as if it's like a legitimate court document.
It's within groups, we should have these things set up. And even in the case that, if I was arrested and my car was impounded, somebody else from the group could actually go pick it up. Right. So I think, I think it's really important. We're always coming from behind. Yeah. They're always grabbing our stuff and we're having to...
Grabbing stuff from behind, eh?
Get it back. And this is a way of kind of securing it and having that extra protection. So,
and as you say, it's good to network and develop
yes.
groups, and you've been very active with groups as well.
Yes.
And so that's something everyone should look at is who else will understand this, who else might help me and cooperate in
yes.
this, and who else could I trade favors with so that we could present a united front against this kind of revenue schemes that are being worked on us.
Exactly.
Revenue schemes.
Exactly.
Typical soft-sit logic.
You won't have this problem. If you don't have a driver's license, you don't have the registration contract, the acceptance and consent. If you don't have those two elements, you shouldn't really have the problem.
God damn it! Thank you, Kat, for the $10 super chat. Great stream. Much appreciate it. Thank you. God damn it.
You piss them off, something happens, and they're in that belief system. They're going to impound your car. It's nice to have something set up as a backup.
Sorry, Deacon.
And this is a kind of nice way of doing that. So.
And would you say that when police act, it sounds like they're really committing a crime? I mean, they're seizing property, they're putting you through nuisance, they're violating your liberty.
They're enforcing the... That one didn't get... That one didn't get me as bad. I think I was more anticipating that one. Feet 765102. The pile is high and deep. I have no idea what that is referring to, but I appreciate it. Thank you, Feet. That one didn't get me as bad. There we go. Have I ever met a sovereign? In person, no, I don't think so. I've handled paperwork by a sovereign citizen. I've seen one.
Afraid of being held accountable. P. Barnes.
Thank you, Megan, for the $9.99 super chat. You didn't get me with a jump scare because it was $9.99 and not $10 even. Jump scares are $10 even. No more, no less. That's how I have it on my gaming stream, and that's why I have it here. I don't know why I keep it on here on this chat, because jump scares are for gaming, and whenever I play Alien Isolation or Layers of Fear or Resident Evil. Yeah. I'm sorry, Megan. It is $10 even, not no more, no less. That's the cost of a jump scare. Hobby, what are you not breaking down Throgmorton's trial? The thing is, I have, for those wondering, I will be doing Throgmorton's trial, but I have to cut down the bullshit. It is over 2 hours long. It would go on forever. And so I need to cut that down to its relevant parts before doing a breakdown of it. I will be doing the breakdown, just not tonight.
Based on a belief system, that's not the law. That's a belief system. They don't have the law on their side. They think they do, and they don't. Is that correct?
Well, yes and no. If we have contracted in, then they...
God damn it!
Not contracted in, they really don't.
You guys are okay. I'm fucking turning this shit off. As soon as I'm done with this live stream, I'm turning it in. I'm turning it off. If you want to jump scare me, do it on my gaming channel. I'm turning that off. Thank you, Alvin, for the $10 super chat just for the jump scare. Thank you. I'm turning that off, and I mean it. I promise you, it's being off on this channel. It's gonna be staying on my gaming channel. It's not. I'm turning it off on this channel. I promise you. Because again, it's not just me. It's you guys. Other people are not appreciating this, and I'm going to respect my viewers' respects.
They do not have that right. This is quasi-civil. It is not criminal in nature. The Supreme Court has recently ruled on the civil forfeitures, and they're really, erring on our side right now. This all started, I think it was around 95 when the Safe Streets Act came out with Clinton. I was first impounded very shortly after, and back then they didn't even have proper forms to give you. So, I've complained, worked the system, worked things out. Quite a lot. I think I was probably one of the first ones, and it was because of my complaints and stuff that then they started to have proper citations that were in line with the law. They did. I didn't get it compensated, but they did correct their failures. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, fucking bullshit.
So, and I'd find a new part every time that it happened to me. Every time I was impounded, and I have been impounded quite a number of times.
So her shit doesn't work. Her shit doesn't work. If she's saying that she went through all this mess to cancel her license, cancel her registration, but she still says that she still has her car impounded multiple times, it means that it doesn't work.
I've taken quite a lot of beatings, and yes, and I feel comfortable that where I'm at right now is actually a really good place, and I'm happy to share this with others.
I think what I may call this video is the bravest woman in the world.
Oh my fucking God.
You're quite the fighter.
It is quite funny, but yes, so I have been through quite a lot on this, and learned to maneuver that through pretty well. So
yes, well, that was
because they're afraid of being held accountable. P. Barnes.
William Foley with a $10.01 super chat. The Throgmorton trial can be cut down to the judge saying you shouldn't have fired your lawyer and Throggy for pleading guilty to all charges before the first witness was dismissed. I mean, I listened to about half of the trial, so I actually got to that point. Thank you again for the $10.01 super chat for not jump scaring me and annoying my audience. But yeah, I listened to about halfway through the trial, so I actually did get to that point where he was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna plead guilty. I haven't gotten further than that. Like, he was still, as far as I got, he's gotten to the conversation with himself and the judge in terms of whether or not he's actually going to plead guilty in the middle of trial.
Thank you.
I'm sure people could watch that once or twice or three times and start to absorb that, because there are some things you mentioned where you do have to go down a little bit of legal study on, and you have to understand any final comment on how people might proceed who may not know the steps to take.
Sure. Make sure that you understand who you are,
Stand under?
the property that you have, and the location where you are. It's really important to understand the terminology that's being used against you.
Yeah, so when you say where you are,
Yes.
how the law defines where you are.
Absolutely.
What that means in a technical sense, because we all think we know where we are, but what matters in this case is the law.
Sure.
And what you found was that it means something very different.
You're right. It is a law, and you're about to quote the wrong fucking law.
It does mean something totally different, yeah. And you really need to understand that venue that they're presuming is that you're on land that's been ceded to the United States, and you are using a zip code. That's why many of us don't use zip codes and the federal.
Oh my God, the fucking zip code thing.
Definitions and federal places. Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing. When you look at, like, you know, there was some confusion as to whether it is a state or federal issue. When you look at police cars, what does it say? It says CA exempt. CA, car, is a federal designation.
Meaning California.
It doesn't
It's California!
necessarily mean California.
Yes, it does!
California is the actual geographical location. State of California is the federal corporation.
It's the same fucking thing. There is no fucking federal corporation of California. There is a sovereign state of California.
Being held accountable. P. Barnes.
Thank you, Robin Answer, for the $20 super chat. By the way, thank you for doing this. Guys, Robbie Anderson is the guy who sent me this video, and so he's the cause of my rage right now. But she's going the whole Moorish thing, right? The whole Moorish soft thing where California, New Jersey, it's just a geographic location. It's not the geographic location of California is not an actual state, not an actual entity. There's just a corporation of California. But it's bullshit.
And so, you know, and car is a layer within that whole section, right? CA is the federal. Absolutely.
CA is just the fucking two-letter symbol for California. For fuck's sake.
Absolutely. That's the federal designation for the state of California.
Okay.
Okay.
So are we good for now?
I'm good.
Thank you so much.
Oh my fucking God. That's it. Thank God it's over. It's over. It's over. It's over. Okay. It's over. You see what I was saying, you guys, about how this video got me so fucking heated? It's just the level of wrong and the confidence in which she spouted her wrong. That's what agitated me so much throughout this entire endeavor. I honestly don't know if she has another video. I'll have to check, Robbie. Will have to point me to it, or I'll look at the channel that the video was uploaded to. It's meant for addresses. It's a simple fucking address. It has no bearing that California is a federal fucking corporation. That's all I'm saying. So I'm gonna end it here before it gets any further. Again, I thank you guys so much for your tips and your donations. Yeah, I need to settle down. I need to take a rest. Watch some weeb shit and lower my heart rate, because that got me heated. Like I said, I am looking at the Throgmorton's trial audio. I need to cut it down if I'm going to make it like something feasible, because a lot of it is really boring shit. Let's be honest. a lot of what you heard from Throgmorton was a lot of boring stuff, rambling and dead air, etc. So I want to cut that down before I do a breakdown of it. So look forward to that. Tomorrow, I am going to be playing some Resident Evil 7. I want to finish that up on my gaming channel. Check out my Discord for any updates to both channels. Like, subscribe. Thank you guys again for all your support. Have a good night. Take care. And you know what? If I'm not going to have scotch, beer, I'm going to have some Japanese whiskey. I'll have that for Friday. Take care, guys. Have a good night. Adios. Archer! Archer, come here! Archer! Archer! E! Archer! Oh, yeah? Alright, for those staying here, we're gonna do some shit posting. It's a reward for those sticking around. Nah, I'm just kidding. No, I actually have to go. I have to go. right, later, guys. I seriously have to go. If it was Friday, then I would be doing this, but not tonight.